Welcome to What Resonates. This podcast is about tuning into energy, intuition, and what feels true for you. Each conversation invites you to notice what sparks curiosity and feels aligned, opening a wider field of possibility for yourself and for humanity. Keep tuning in and follow What Resonates. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Andrea Kennedy, your host here at What Resonates. If you have ever wanted to learn Reiki in person, I'll be in the United Kingdom this June. Make sure to reserve your seat at mainstreamreiki.com. And if the UK is a little outside your neighborhood or the time just doesn't work for you, you can join me in my live online classes with other students from around the world. I hope to see you in class and take action with you to help bring more light into our world. Welcome. It's Andrea Kennedy with another episode of What Resonates. And let us welcome today Brett Bevell. He is a returning guest here at the show. Brett is a Reiki master, an author, an innovator in the world of energy healing. He's written several books that you may have heard of, including Psychic Reiki and the Reiki Magic Guide to Self-Attunement. Brett has also created the Reiki Divine Healing card deck, and it's designed to help people connect with healing energy in an intuitive, accessible way. Brett is a longtime teacher and practitioner, blending traditional Reiki with higher self-guided techniques that bring healing into everyday life. He's also a poet and performer whose work has aired on NPR and touched audiences worldwide through a number of platforms and organizations. Brett, you have really done it all. I could have just kept on, with that bio for half the show, I think, but I want to get into it with you. You're always just fascinating to talk to, and you've had such a neat, very varied background, I guess I would say, in things that you've dabbled in and studied and put out into the world. So thanks for coming back to the show and talking with us again.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to invite our audience to check back at your other episode. We'll put the link in the show notes for them, and they can find out more about you. And would you like a new spleen? I remember that one from the other episode. So if that piques their curiosity, they can hear that amazing, amazing story that you shared there. But you're a veteran in this space of healing and energy. And I also wanted to share a little something about the Reiki crystal that we talked about before. And if you don't mind, can you refresh our memories? What is the Reiki crystal, and which of your books talks about that? Can you talk about the Reiki crystal?
Yeah, so the Reiki crystal is not a physical crystal. It's if you can imagine an energetic crystal that's made out of the energy and light of Reiki. And for anyone who's a practitioner in psychic Reiki, they become empowered to that Reiki crystal. And once they have it, it sits right in front of the heart chakra, and it will respond to anything that the person directs it to do, usually with either your voice or even your thoughts. And the two books that are about it, one is Psychic Reiki, and the other one is one that has a horrible title that I take full responsibility for, called New Reiki Software for Divine Living.
New Reiki Software for Divine Living. Yeah. What's so bad about that?
Well, that one came out before Psychic Reiki because I really wasn't sure what to call it. And so I think it just it muddied the waters. People really thought it was about like IT related stuff. I got all kind of emails about like, what's this have to do with my computer?
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. And so the crystal then is a technique that Reiki practitioners engage with for healing themselves and other things, correct?
Yeah, you can use it to work on yourself, again, just speaking to it, but you can also use it to work on others. It also can perform, distant healings. And what I really enjoy about it too is that there are certain aspects of it that bring through possibilities that at least I was never shown in terms of traditional Reiki. So with traditional Reiki, I think of the energy being more of a wave or a flow. And the Reiki crystal can do that, but it can also create energetic shapes with the energy, like certain holograms of organs or sacred geometric forms and things like that, which kind of add a little extra to doing a self-healing or a session on somebody else.
I wanted to share something with you. I didn't mention it last time we met for the episode. That was the first time I had met you. And I didn't really put two and two together until sometime after we recorded, really. And I engaged with a crystal, a Reiki crystal, but I didn't even know about it because what happened was, so I guess I'm leading into like consciousness, and how all of this kind of goes together. It was leading up to recording that episode with you. And I remember I came in here and sat down here at my desk, and I was just aware that there was something different. And so I just kind of tuned into myself in the space around me. And I had this visual, and I had this Reiki crystal in my field. And at the moment, I didn't know it was a Reiki crystal. I just saw this beautiful crystal and I saw the details. It was beautiful, it's gorgeous. And it had a different facets to it. It had structure. It was actually in the form of a cross. And it had this rose quartz color, but then it also had a clear quartz that was almost integrated in it in a certain way. But the thing that stood out to me was the intricate detail of the pink quartz. It was structured like selenite, with the long crystalline threads almost, and it was so neat. And as I'm talking about it, I'm seeing it all again. It was just really beautiful. And anyway, became aware of that. And so I started working with it a little bit. And then you were on the show, and I was like, I wonder, is this related? And then I looked through Psychic Reiki because I don't like to read the guest books, leading into the interview because I like to be curious and discover things in the moment. And then I was really into the Psychic Reiki book, and I thought, oh, that's exactly what this is. This is a crystal for me to utilize in my healing work for myself and other people. And I just wanted to share that because thank you for bringing that concept forward. But isn't that interesting that I engaged with it before I even knew about it in my
I
mind?
love that. It reminds me one of my Reiki teachers. I believe it was Mary Robertson who taught me second degree, and she had the belief that sometimes we'll actually become attuned on a higher level before we actually physically receive the attunement, and or the that there's other things kind of percolating and going on. So my sense is like you got the crystal before before I was on your program. Like that's really cool.
Yeah. And what you just shared right there, that brings about what I've heard so often with Reiki students. And you being a teacher, I bet you know what I'm going to say. And that is, don't you hear from students that they were shown the symbols before they showed up to class, or things started falling apart for them in preparation for the class once they registered? Do you hear
I
that a
do.
lot?
I definitely do. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really something. And I think it leads us into that whole concept of higher self. I mentioned that in the bio. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, you are an innovator with Reiki, but what is this other area that you've brought in, and how does that serve people who are interested in going in that direction?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I'll give a little history around it. So after I got my master level in 1995, I moved to San Francisco, And I began studying with a Huna shaman there, a fellow named Jack Gray, who was quite old and quite short, had a wicked sense of humor. He kind of reminded me of Yoda. And he had actually known Hawaii Takata. Now, in the studies I was doing with him, it was not Reiki. He was teaching me different shamanic techniques, and a lot of it involved connecting with your higher self and sending energy to your subconscious mind and your higher self to manifest different changes in your life. And in the time I was studying with him, I began to wonder, what if I fused some of these concepts together with my traditional, Reiki training? And so that gave birth to some of the ideas in my first couple books, both the Reiki Magic Guide to Self Attunement and also Reiki for Spiritual Healing, are about, really a lot of it is involving this working with your higher self, and also working with Reiki. And then that just advanced and accelerated when the Reiki crystal came through, and again, those books are more specific to the crystal, but yeah, this idea that higher self, that higher being of us that is beyond our physical self, that's even beyond perhaps even this particular incarnation, but that has a great deal of wisdom and that can kind of really even operate beyond the context of time and space as we usually know it. And I think it certainly gives a certain level of freedom, in terms of one as a healer, to be able to release things at a much deeper level when you sort of incorporate that possibility that there's this bigger you that is far beyond your body and far beyond, even this lifetime.
Yeah, I think that really resonates with a lot of people. Um, we are so much more than what we see reflected back in the mirror. I think that's so believed today. But back then, I would imagine it was a little bit different for people. Did you face a lot of judgment in the Reiki community as you started bringing other concepts and working together with Reiki?
I did. I think, it's interesting. The book that I felt the most judgment about was actually the new Reiki software for divine living. And what I got in terms of what felt like almost like some high level trolling for a while on social media was that there were some people that were very upset because, even though I refer to it as the Reiki crystal, I originally had a much longer name for it because it felt to me like it came from Mikao Sui. And so I called it Mikao Sui's Reiki Crystal of Awakening. And I felt that was just a way of honoring the source. To me, it came from his spirit during a mystical experience I had. And so I was just honoring the source. But I got a lot of heat for that. And so, the first two books seemed to not get as much as I anticipated. I thought, oh, this is going to shake up a lot of things, but most of the response was well. But really, the new Reiki software for divine living, when I put it out, I got a lot of, felt a lot of negative energy coming my way, which I didn't anticipate at all.
And I have to ask you, as a
Yeah.
person, as a practitioner who felt, I'm guessing that you felt your heart was in the right place and you were doing this to be helpful and all of those good things. uh, How did you navigate that? Because I have to imagine that, was that rough?
It was rough. I think the rough part was I just totally didn't anticipate it at all. You know, I really thought, well, I'm trying to honor, honor the source, and for whatever reason, it ruffled some people's feathers. And I mean, I'm past that now, but at the time, it was just not anticipated at all. And I think that was part of it. I wasn't in any way seeing it and was kind of totally blindsided by it.
Yeah. And I'd like to find out more, Brett, about your trajectory. Um, because as I mentioned, you've been in this arena, well, I don't like that word arena, but in this realm of healing and teaching for so long. But can you fill in the blanks here? I mean, um, how have you learned? Where have you learned? What has your path been like? And maybe in that, if you could highlight something that's been maybe steadfast through your journey,
Yeah.
that might inspire us.
Yeah. So, for the last more than quarter of a century, I've been working at the Omega Institute for Holistic Studies in Rhinebeck, New York. I got my master level when I was seasonal staff at Omega in 1995, and then was gone for several years, and then came back. And basically, since 2000, I've been working at Omega, which has been really wonderful for me because Omega Institute is a wonderful place where there's all kinds of workshops in Reiki, but also in shamanic healing work, in yoga, meditation, in art, creative writing. Like many of the major thought leaders of our time have taught at Omega at some point in their career, going all the way back to Ram Dass, who actually used to be on the board of Omega Institute. And because of the gift of having been an employee there, part of our pay is that we also get to take a workshop each year. And so over that 26 year period, I've been exposed to a lot of different modalities, not just energy healing, but even within energy healing, there's Reiki, but I've also taken vortex healing and other modalities. I've explored with a bunch of different shamans. I've taken art workshops with Alex Gray. Have taken writing workshops with Cheryl Strayed. So many of the greatest minds I feel of our time, I've had the opportunity to study with them and be exposed to their ideas. And also a key part of Omega Institute is this idea from the Jesuit mystic Pierre Desjardins of what he called the Omega point, which was this point where he saw human consciousness kind of coming together as one. And, that idea of thoughts really cross-pollinating each other. And so I feel Omega really embodies that. And so through the good fortune of having worked at Omega, it's really helped shape my journey in that I'll get bits of information and look and see, well, how does this influence this? Some of my energy healing techniques have actually come through when I was taking shamanic workshops, and I would just have visions during a shamanic journey of, oh, try this, do this, even the work of Alex Gray, who's an amazing visual artist. These lines of light that show up in his paintings, I feel like on some way that's informed this concept of what I call Reiki lasers, which are something that occurs through the Reiki crystal, where it can create these bands of Reiki light through time and space. So it all just interweaves in such a beautiful and amazing way that it has totally influenced my journey in a very, very positive light. And I want to say too, just that I'm also excited that you're going to be coming to Omega this summer. You know,
Yes, I'm so excited too, Brett. And I have to admit, Omega is a little bit new to me. I mean, I, many, many years ago, I heard about it, but it was just a little bit, kind of out in the ether. And then I learned it was in Rhinebeck, New York. And I thought, where in the world is that? And then I looked it up and it's kind of out in the boonies, isn't it?
it's about 90 minutes north of New York City, but it definitely has a very rural feel to it because even the town of Rhinebeck is still a good 15-minute drive from Omega Institute. So our postal address reads Rhinebeck, but we're really more out in the country, which is it's nice in terms of the healing because it's 200 acres of land. When you think on that land, there has been deep healing going on pretty much nonstop for the last 50 years. Next year is going to be our 50th anniversary. And when you think of the amazing teachers that have embodied their wisdom on that land, in the buildings, it's in the rocks, it's in the trees, and a lot of teachers will tell us that they feel that their students have a deeper experience when the workshop happens at Omega, just because there's this resonant field that has been growing there for about 50 years, and people just drop into a deeper space. I think as soon as they
I
walk on campus.
I have heard that. And there seems to be power places on the grounds, which I can't wait to check that out. and have that experience there. And we'll get into that a little bit in a minute. I just want to say what a cool answer you gave, because and asking about your path and what may be something that has led you through that guiding light, or that stability as you explored and grew Omega. And what I heard you say was basically education,
Mhm.
teaching and being a student, never ending that. So I think that's just a big banner moment, because I think a lot of us, we take our training and then that's it. We go and we practice or whatever, and we read books maybe here and there. But I think maybe this is the time, if we've set aside learning, to re engage, because I'm getting a lot right now about this time that we're living in. And a lot of people have uncertainty and fear and things like that about everything going on. And if we want to change the world, right, and bring in more higher consciousness and things like that, we need to move forward. We need to keep taking action and not feel like, oh, I'm just going to sit over here and watch what's going on in the world. It's an opportunity, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. That deeper sense of, I didn't mention this because I don't think when you first reached out to me that this happened yet. But I, over the last couple of weeks, I actually wrote a book. I don't have a publisher yet, but the book feels written. And in there, one of the chapters that came through was uh, Reiki, kind of promoting this idea of us each being a citizen of peace, and that even in the precepts, that if you follow the precepts, then it's leading you to be a more peaceful person in your own individual life. And then when you add and layer in all the energetic possibilities, how we can be beacons of peace, not just for ourselves and for our family, but also for the world. And that it's really as we each begin to shine that light and embody peace in our own lives, then that really ripples and resonates out into the world. I totally believe that. And then, that helps to create a more sustainable and a more, compassionate world as a whole.
That's so exciting. You heard it here first, everybody. Brett just wrote a new book. That's super amazing. Yeah, I just feel like now's the time to engage. And whether it's taking action, in your community or whatever it is, but from a spiritual sense, learn, take a class, go on a retreat. Now's not the time to just sit and, you know, be in fear maybe, or uncertainty, because I'm even going to go there. There are people who say, there are forces out there, and they want to keep power and all of that kind of stuff. So if you're one of those people, well, then sitting on the sidelines, not doing anything, feeds into that, right? So if we want to really make a difference, it is taking steps for peace, for education, and showing resilience and at this time, instead of stepping back. So I actually just got my catalog, my Omega catalog in the mail. And I have to tell everybody listening and watching on YouTube, if you don't get the catalog, oh, they need to go and they need to sign up, right? Because there are so many workshops in here. I had not gotten the catalog
Oh,
before this
wow.
year. And so it just blew me away. And then I found our workshop on page 60. I found it right there. And I'm so excited. And what we're doing there this summer is Radical Rest Reset, restore sleep, energy, and inner balance. How about that? And so I wonder, gosh, what are we going to do? Because I am one of 4 that are going to be there. It's July 31st through August 2nd. And like I said, I just can't wait to go there, experience the whole thing. And I'm excited because I'm taking my own advice. I'm doing something out of my normal routine. I'm pushing myself to present there and to, you know, do something new and with new people. So I'm really
Well,
excited.
I'm very excited that you're going to be part of it. And again, I thank you for accepting the invitation when I asked you to come. And that particular weekend, what excites me about it are several things. One is that every time we do any kind of multi-faculty event where there's more than one teacher, I always just love the interplay and the excitement that happens between teachers. And again, when you go back to this idea of the omega point, of different points of information coming together that then evolves to a greater wholeness, a greater level of consciousness. And so we have you for that weekend bringing in your beautiful energy healing skills. We have Dr. Michael Bruce, who's really a sleep expert. He's an amazing speaker and doctor. He goes into what he calls the chronotypes, which are, we're not all the same in terms of our sleeping patterns and the things we need to really nourish ourselves in terms of our sleep. So he really breaks it down and shows you all the different chronotypes and what things you need to really match with your chronotype for the best kind of sleep possible. We also have a woman named Jillian Pransky, who's both an amazing yoga teacher, but she's also really deeply skilled in meditation. Actually, for a number of years, every year we would have Pema Chodron teach at Omega Institute. Jillian was the yoga teacher always that same weekend. So she would be teaching all of Pema's students yoga. So she's really skilled at both, again, meditation and also yoga. So she'll be really teaching a lot about just how to be mindful of our breath and mindful of our thoughts and really relax easier physically on the physical level. And we also have a fellow named Dr. Tom Francis Scott, and he's really wonderful in terms of he's a naturopath, so he's really good at helping you get a sense of what kind of things should you be eating and putting into your body to really help with that sense of rest and resilience and just to really nurture ourselves. And really, again, when we think of the kind of time that we're in right now, and some people might get drained very easily by the amount of chaos that's happening at the world stage right now. Keeping ourselves strong and keeping ourselves nourished and in best possible health is really important. It's really, something that we all need to be invested in. So I'm so looking forward to you being part of that weekend and to you being able to have that Omega experience. And I'm curious too, just again, this is one of the things that really lights me up, just the kind of conversations that I imagine that are going to happen between you and the other faculty and also the different students that arrive for that weekend.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to it. Of course, I'm a little nervous too because I'm just, human. But it'll be fine. It'll be amazing, I'm sure. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you about too with Omega, though, is in looking at the catalog, and of course they have a website and everything too. But I guess I'm a little old school. I really like the
Mm-hmm.
pages and being able to look at the large catalog that they have. But there's so many things going on here, and some like our weekend that we're there are a lot of other things the same weekend. And I'm wondering, isn't that a little chaotic? I mean, I'm just used to going to a place and it's like one thing going on, but this is this is quite a busy place. And it must be so organized. Can you talk about the experience there with all of these
Well,
things?
and again, I'm going back to that beauty of that concept of the Omega point. So yeah, we have 9 different classrooms on campus, and so we proportion them out in terms of the larger workshops are going in the larger classrooms, and the more intermediate and the immediate. And we have a wonderful production team that sets up the space and has everything ready to go. So you as the presenter and also the students, all they need to do is show up. Everything else is taken care of. But the real beauty of what I see, again, getting back to that idea of the Omega point, the kinds of conversations that will happen in the dining hall, when you have people who are taking different workshops and they're sitting together at the same table, the kinds of things that it will spark, is just one of the things that I live for, is that sense of like watching how that interplay occurs between people who are coming and having these sometimes very different experiences, but in this same container, and how it really just kind of amplifies everything that happens on campus. And when I was seasonal staff at Omega Institute in 1995, all the staff then referred to Omega as the Karmic Accelerator. And I really believe it's a karmic accelerator, not just for the staff, but I believe anybody who comes, whether it's to teach or to learn at Omega, you're benefiting not just from the experience of your faculty, who are world class and amazing premier teachers, but you're also benefiting from this underlying kind of alchemical stew that's being created by all the workshops that are happening on campus, and the overall vibration that it's setting throughout that entire weekend, that entire group field. So it's really hard to tangibly explain, but I think you know what I mean.
I think I do. I bet there are so many synchronicities. I bet people show up there and they find lifelong friends.
They do, definitely do. There's so many times when, not just for the workshops that I've taught, but just even when you're walking around campus and you have a meal with somebody who's seems like a stranger, but after you've talked to them for a while, there's all these amazing things that you share together. There's one woman actually who's faculty now at Omega Institute. The first time I met her was when my girlfriend at the time, but now wife, were traveling in Bali over 20 years ago. We randomly ran into this person. She wasn't teaching at Omega yet. A few years later, we randomly ran into her at an airport in San Francisco. She wasn't teaching at Omega yet, but now she's teaching at Omega, and I wasn't the one that brought her there. Another programmer at Omega said, "Oh, there's this amazing woman who does work on mindfulness and education. We have to bring her." So just again, these wild synchronicities that will occur. So you may come to Omega and find that you discover a great friend in class, or somebody who you just meet at the daily open yoga class. And that's another thing I forgot to mention, is that another thing we really do to kind of set that deeper inner level of healing is that every morning at 7 a.m. and also in the afternoon at 5:30 p.m., we have what we call daily open classes, which are in yoga, tai chi, and meditation. People aren't required to attend, but it's just there for those who want to show up and want to, go to a deeper level of healing while they're there for the weekend. And so again, it's just this other layer. It's like a souffle with all these layers of beautiful, tasty, energetic treats to really nourish your soul. And when people are immersed in that, a lot of openings and a lot of healing can occur. And so, yeah, you may come away from that weekend having met one or more, soul friends who you'll stay connected to with the rest of your life.
That's so exciting. I am touched by it seems magical. It seems very special. There are, I can think of some other places here in the US where people go for things, but how did the Omega Institute actually start? I mean, you're saying it's almost 50 years. I mean, that's quite a long time to be open.
Yeah, it started with an idea from a Sufi mystic named Pir Vilayat Anayat Khan, and he had a following here. I mean, he was known around the world, and his Sufi teachings again are that sense of embodying multiple paths and multiple ways of embodying spirit. And so he had a commune basically called the Abode of the Message, which still exists about maybe an hour north of Omega Institute. And they had little side businesses, things to do to keep the community abundant and thriving. And at one point, he had this idea of what he called Omega. He was basing it on that concept of Pierre Desjardins' Omega Point, of having workshops, of bringing people together, and with ways of investigating spirituality and holistic healing and art. And eventually, a few years into it, one of their first teachers was Ram Dass, who eventually became part of the board. So Pure Vilayat Khan basically charged two of his students who were married, Elizabeth Lesser and Stefan Rechtschaffen, to go out and create this thing called Omega. And so Stefan and Elizabeth did that. They ended up eventually buying this land that Omega now exists on, and it has been thriving now for almost 50 years. And again, just a really amazing journey in terms of the things that it has helped, I think, manifest in the world. When you think about yoga, maybe 30 or 40 years ago wasn't that well known. I mean, I know, yeah, there was a PBS yoga show with that woman who just passed away, but now there's yoga almost in every town, or maybe in every town for sure. Even mindfulness, right? Maybe 20 years ago, the term mindfulness wasn't that well known, but we've been having mindfulness workshops with John Kabat-Zinn and others pretty much since our inception, and so we're kind of helping bring these uh, more holistic ways of being out into the mainstream. And so, I really think Omega has a big mission in the world, and so it's been a pleasure to be part of that experience for the last quarter century of my life.
Yeah, quarter century. Wow. Do you think, can you boil it down? Do you think that there's a secret ingredient to their success? I mean, could you boil it down to something?
Well, I think it's several things. I think there's parts of that container, again, that interplay, the fact that there's nine
Mm-hmm.
classrooms, and that interplay of these energies that are on campus at any given time, whether it's writing and art or shamanism and energy healing or meditation, and all the way they kind of build off each other and interplay off each other, even though each person's in their own workshop with their own teacher, you can still feel that blending on the campus. Also, the daily open classes that we offer to people. We also are very mindful about the food that's served in our dining hall. It's not all 100% organic, but we try to be as mindful as we can about trying to get locally sourced food. It's mostly vegetarian, not exclusively so. There's plenty of vegan options. Occasionally there'll be some fish or chicken, but everything is very mindful. And also, this is a secret that we don't even put on our website, but all of the staff who are at Omega, the people who are cleaning the classrooms, the people who are making your latte in the cafe or making your food in the dining hall, or even greeting you when you arrive, they all also have their own special educational program. So that person who's making your bed in the morning might be a Reiki master or a advanced yoga student and so you kind of feel this energy just throughout the campus. And again, it's just creating all these layers and layers of divine light, I feel, that are just kind of beaming out through the land of the campus.
It feels to me as though it's very complete, like it's very well thought out, and decisions are made with focus and purpose and consciousness and light. That's what comes through when you talk about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. It almost feels like it is its own entity, and I feel like on some level it is, that there are higher beings that are kind of watching this show and making sure that the leadership is on the right track and that everything's going as it should. So yeah, I do feel like it's definitely well thought out, and on many ways beyond human well thought out, I think.
And I don't even, I know the answer to this, but maybe it's just a point to make. I mean, who would you be today without Omega?
Oh, me, yeah. I would probably be, uh, working as a waiter somewhere, which is what I did before. And nothing wrong with being a waiter. I enjoyed that life. But I'd probably be working as a waiter and going to poetry readings. And maybe I would have published some poems here and there. But that's probably who I would be.
Oh, it's fun to think about things sometimes. I think, but um, wow, is there anything new in your work? I mean, you just shared that you just wrote a book in the last couple of weeks, but is there anything new happening besides that? Anything that's inspiring you? Anything you'd want to share before we ask you if you'd like to offer a little healing for our audience? Any last word?
Yeah, so basically, my last book, or recent book that I've written, again, doesn't have a publisher yet, but I'm hoping, is called Ultra Psychic Reiki, and it's basically an amplification of the work of Psychic Reiki, which is not something that I asked to happen. It was literally about a year and a half ago. I was doing an online live training with students at master level Reiki, but I was also infusing into that certain psychic Reiki concepts. So it was really both a traditional master level training, but also working with the Reiki crystal on top of that. And literally the night before the first class that in that training, which was a 6-month training, the night before that first class, I'm lying in bed, just thinking I'm about to go to sleep. And there's this huge energetic portal just opened above me, and it was more than just a sui. It was like a collection of what felt like ascended masters downloading another energetic device that I refer to now as the Reiki Rainbow Sphere that was put around my Reiki crystal and that had other aspects to it that were beyond the Reiki crystal. And that's why I call it ultra psychic Reiki, because it's still, you still talk to it with your mind, but you're actually talking to a different energetic structure, which is around the Reiki crystal that I call the Reiki Rainbow Sphere, that has several different lines of light. One I call diamond, which is really more about things, moving things on the spiritual level, spiritual clearings, aura clearings, things of that nature. Then there's an energy that I call emerald. Or when I say I call, it's really, I was told these are the names to use. I feel like I don't even feel like I decided them. This emerald that brings through this beautiful green light that was really much more about finding balance and harmony, and it's very good also for mental emotional healings and just again amplifying what already exists within the system. And then there's another light that's called sapphire, which is just very soothing, relaxing. It's what I use when I feel like I need to fall asleep. Like, it's just a really beautiful energy. And then there's a fourth level, or a fourth energy called ruby, which is very energizing and brings a sense of vitality and just kind of gets energy moving. And then there's kind of a fifth energy that's really just more of a blessing, called the golden light of heaven. And so with Ultra Psychic Reiki, we're just basically working with these different bands of light from the Reiki Rainbow Sphere and weaving together healing with that. So the funny thing is, the system came to me, like I said, about a year and a half ago. But when I was working with my own psychic, who I've been working with for 30 years, a few weeks ago, at the very end of the session, and he didn't say it, it just came to me. It's like I said, "Oh, I'm supposed to write a book now," and this was like literally 3 weeks ago. And then in the last 3 weeks, 40,000 plus words just kind of poured out, and I thought, okay, time to send it out. So I just sent it to a publisher the other day. We'll see what happens with that. But it literally just came through.
Wow. I'm a little bit at a loss for words. That is really, it's so many things, Brett, because it's inspiring how it just came like that. And it's also, it sounds very profound, very deep. And the other thing I wanted to mention about that, we've heard all of these things before. We've heard the colors. We've heard diamond. We've heard ruby. We've heard all that. Even terms like Reiki rainbow and things like, we've heard all of these things. But from my perspective, we're in a time of redefinition. It's almost like we had words before, but now there's like this other level of meaning and energy that we can marry with these words. And I see you nodding your head. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the language doesn't even fully embody where I think the evolution of the energies and our consciousness wants to go. Like, even though I use the term, diamond and sapphire and emerald and ruby, I don't mean those as like gemstone energies. Like, these are octaves that are way beyond that, and so it feels like, definitely there's a lot that's unfolding here. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot that's unfolding and just allowing us to raise our awareness of what's possible, even with the same language, I guess. But wow, that's pretty incredible. Yes, and we wanted to ask you if you might offer some healing for us. You did in our last episode, and so hopefully you do that. But I do want to ask one thing before we do that, because we're going to probably get relaxed and feel like in a different space in a minute. So, how can people find out about Omega, and how can people find out about you before we relax with you?
So Omega, you can go to eomega.org. So www.eomega.org. And you can find all of our amazing workshops there, and also the bios of all the different faculty. It's a really wonderful website to go to and just explore. In terms of my work, I have two websites. The easiest to remember is brettbevell.com, which has usually my live dates, my different live trainings and stuff. I also have a different website, which is academyofloveandlight.us, which has more of my online programs. There's some pre-recorded programs, but there's also live group healings and live things that I do there as well. So those are the two ways you can connect with me. And yes, I would love to do a healing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brett. Thank you.
So I'm going to invite everyone to just get in a place where you can really receive. So you don't want to be chopping vegetables right now or listening to this while you're driving the car. You really want to make sure you're in a place where you can receive. So if you need to hit the pause button, feel free to do that. But just sit back, relax, and I'm just going to begin by inviting the Reiki Rainbow Sphere to begin by sending Sapphire Reiki to your brain and nervous system. And I'm also going to invite the Reiki Rainbow Sphere to manifest a sapphire power symbol, moving back and forth along your vagus nerve, almost back and forth like you could imagine like a ping pong ball, just to really relax your vagus nerve. And inviting the Reiki Rainbow Sphere to also manifest sapphire Reiki lasers connecting each and every muscle in your body to each and every other muscle in your body now. And from here, inviting the Reiki Rainbow Sphere to also manifest a pyramid of diamond Reiki around you now, just to help amplify the healing and also to bring soothing and nurturing for you on the spiritual level. And from here, I'm inviting the Reiki Rainbow Sphere to also manifest right in the center of your head a emerald mental emotional healing symbol. And I'm going to invite the Reiki Rainbow Sphere to have that mental emotional emerald Reiki healing symbol vibrate and oscillate at whatever frequency or pitch is most eloquently designed for your healing needs in this moment, just to help manifest a sense of harmony and inner peace. And from here, I'm inviting the Reiki Rainbow Sphere also to send a wave of ruby Reiki up, literally coming up through your feet, up through your legs, up to the base of your spine, and then all the way up your spine, out the top of your head, sending that ruby Reiki through you all the way, connecting with Divine Source. And from here, I'm inviting the Reiki Rainbow Sphere to put you into the Sapphire Reiki Galactic Healing Grid, just to deepen the healing at a deeper and deeper level. And from here, I'm also inviting the Reiki Rainbow Sphere to connect with the Tree Peace Ultra Psychic Reiki Grid, and to bring in the energies of the trees to just help align you to become a citizen of peace, a citizen of peace for yourself, to be at peace with who you are, to be at peace with those who coexist around you, friends, family, co-workers, loved ones, and to be at peace with the world at large in whatever way that you can help bring peace to that greater picture of life on planet Earth. And from here, I'm going to invite the Reiki Rainbow Sphere to send you a wave of what I call the golden light of heaven, which is like a deep, energetic blessing. So just inviting the Reiki Rainbow Sphere to send you the golden light of heaven. And inviting the Reiki Rainbow Sphere to send you another wave of the golden light of heaven. And because I like to do things in threes, we're going to invite the Reiki Rainbow Sphere to send you another wave of the golden light of heaven. And from here, I'm going to invite the Reiki Rainbow Sphere also to bring you into a sapphire Reiki meditation for deep stillness and inner peace. And from here, I'm going to invite the Reiki Rainbow Sphere to very gently and very easily shift all the different lines of light that it's been sending to now be for the most gentle and most perfect form of integration for you now. Just to help bend all those different lines of light so that by the time it runs fully through you, by the time this treatment comes to an end, that you will very easily and very gently just fully arrive back into your body, back into the room that you're in, and back into this time and space. And so just pay attention to the chair or the couch or wherever you are supporting you. Pay attention to that connection to the earth. Let yourself notice the sensation of clothing against your skin or any sounds that are happening inside or outside the room where you are. And very gently and very easily, just let your consciousness arrive back into your body, back into the room, back into this time and space. So that was just a quick taste of the Ultra Psychic Reiki, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, Brett. I actually felt quite a bit during that. Yeah, quite a bit, and had a lot of visuals. So I'll be reflecting on that for sure. And if you're watching on YouTube, put down in the comments for us anything you experienced or what you thought about the episode. And have you been to Omega before? What are your thoughts? We love to hear from our audience, our viewers, and gosh, thank you so much, Brett, for being here. And I'm super happy to meet you in person this summer.
I am super happy to see you at Omega too, and I do want to just briefly mention, because I forgot to mention that June 5th through 7th we have the Wisdom of Reiki conference this year, and I just recently I wasn't originally going to do this, but I just recently decided as I was writing the book that at that conference I'm not going to just share a healing, but I'm also going to empower everyone to Ultra Psychic Reiki, whoever is at that conference. So I just want to let people know.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, that's in June. Yeah, I'll be in the UK for that, darn it. But anyway, I'll see you in July, end of July. So, wow. Thanks for being here, Brett.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, and I look forward to seeing you at Omega. And actually, we'll have to talk about bringing you in for a future Reiki conference. So
I'd love it. I'd absolutely love it. All right. Thanks again. Thank you for tuning in. Keep trusting your truth, keep listening to your inner wisdom, and keep following what resonates. To sign up for the newsletter, leave a review, or connect, visit whatresonatspodcast.com. You'll also find everything linked in the show notes.